Last time Rory was in the media center in Louisville, Kentucky, he was celebrating his fourth major victory, the 2014 PGA Championship. In the blink of an eye, the last decade has gone without Rory winning a single major. 35 starts, 20 top 10s, 10 top 5s, but still looking for that elusive fifth major title, as is a nearly 10-year drought, just under 10, dating back to August of 2014. So Rory McIlroy, obviously, with a lot going on into this week, from his press conference, which lasted about 10 minutes or so, one of the shortest we've had with anyone on the mic in the press center. I thought it was interesting, his comments, Eamon, regarding Jimmy Dunne resigning from the PGA Tour board. He said it was concerning, and he said last week that it was about as low as he's been in regards to positivity towards a deal getting done between the Public Investment Fund and the PGA Tour. What was your takeaway from Rory's comments?
I think if you're an executive involved in those negotiations from the PGA Tour side, that's got to be something of a distress flare being sent up there when he uses words like concerning, disappointing, stalled. And it's very unclear how much of that, which is the reality of those negotiations, it's very much unclear how much it owes to the dysfunction at a board level of the PGA Tour versus intentional activities by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, because ultimately they can potentially win two ways. They can win by building a good product, which they haven't done, or they can let a narrative take root that the PGA Tour's product is being diminished day after day, which does seem to be taking root in terms of the conversation. But it's definitely, he's right in saying that Jimmy Dunne was the conduit for those negotiations, for the framework agreement, but that was part of the problem. That's why the player backlash happened, was the secrecy around that. You can't really take a 180-degree turn and expect the people who supported you to continue to support you when that happens. And I think that's the fallout with Jimmy Dunne. But Rory's on that committee now, the transaction committee. He's the one in the room doing these negotiations whenever they happen. He's clearly suggesting that nothing's happening right now.
My question, this seemed to be at polar odds to what Jordan Spieth said earlier this week.
Yeah.
Make that make sense to me. How can you have two people that are supposedly in leadership roles in this organization that have completely different takes on what's happening?
And that speaks to the schism that you see at the board level, because Rory would see Jimmy Dunne as part of a solution. Jordan Spieth and Patrick Cantley and some other guys see Jimmy as having been part of the problem in terms of the governance wasn't working in the organisation, that an end run happened around the board with a framework agreement, and the idea of then having those people be the conduits again for the negotiations just was never going to sit easily with those people. And it's very possible Jimmy Dunne's relationship with Yasser Al-Rumayyan would have brought a lot of value to those negotiations. We're not going to find out, because ultimately the players on the board just didn't want to go back down that road. They wanted consequences for what happened on June 6th and a complete governance redo on the PGA Tour. And Jimmy was a target of that, and Jimmy stayed a long time. There were players on the board who would have preferred to see Jimmy Dunne go earlier. Jimmy Dunne stayed longer than some people wanted him, but at a certain point Jimmy said to me on a phone call the other night, "I'm superfluous, it's time to go. There's a group making decisions, I'm not part of it, I'm not consulted." He saw his role as having ended on the board and his usefulness to the board ending. But it does very much speak to the schism between different factions on the board as to who ought to be their point person going forward.
And it was a very different reaction from Tiger Woods, who said he was surprised, lauded Jimmy, but didn't necessarily say that it was going to be a grave concern or have the same ramifications that Rory McIlroy was alluding to.